Okay, so welcome everyone. So today we've got Concette Spada from Cambridge University Press, who is the social media coordinator for MDG. She's going to be talking about metadata at the press for us. So Concette, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Will, and welcome everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay. So I'm Concette Spada at the Cambridge University Press. I am the senior metadata librarian, and my main job is to take care of our metadata and deliver it to libraries and library services providers and vendors. Thank you for coming to see my webinar today. So first, I would like to go with you through the metadata supply chain. I'm sure that among you there are people who are familiar with it, but others could be not. So I thought it would be good to start from this. So as you may know, the first ones to create metadata for any kind of resource are the authors of that resource, of that work. And they share that metadata with their publishers. And the publishers, they will use that metadata to create additional kinds of metadata. And they will share that metadata with libraries, library services providers, and vendors. And libraries will share that metadata with library services providers and vendors, but also there could be libraries that create additional metadata and share it back with publishers. And library services providers and vendors will share that metadata with all the libraries who use their databases. Speaking of the libraries who use the metadata given by the publishers and then share it back with the publishers, we have a perfect example of it with what the Library of Congress is doing with many publishers, among them Cambridge University Press. What they do is they use the metadata that we send them for our print books, and then create MARC records for them, and then send that metadata back to us. So that's great because both of organizations, we create metadata for free and we share it freely with everyone. So this is a very important point because it means that we all collaborate towards the same goal, which is to make sure that our metadata is of very good quality and shareable between everyone. What is important within the metadata supply chain is that everyone is aware of the quality standards that the metadata that everyone produce should have. Because if the metadata is not of good quality, or so there is something wrong with it, discoverability of the resources will be affected, and no one within the metadata supply chain wants that. Definitely. So what we want to achieve at Cambridge University Press is to create metadata that is good quality and that we can share with everyone. And that's why we have also developed a good relationship with all the major library services providers and vendors. These are the major ones. We have monthly and quarterly meetings with them, apart from responding to the tickets that librarians could raise within this organization that they report back to us. We also have meetings where we not only keep each other up to date to see what is happening in each other's companies, and that's already important because we can prevent from errors to happen if we know what the other is doing, and be ready when we launch a new product or they launch a new product and so on. But also we have developed very, very close relationships with them, and that's good because we finally are on the same level. We know what is expected, what we all expect from each other in terms of metadata. And so I distribute XML metadata, MARC records, and KBAR list to all the major library services providers and vendors. I do this monthly. By the 10th of each month, I distribute this metadata for the the metadata for the titles of the ebooks published the previous month. Where instead for the journals, being that we publish journals only once a year, the metadata for the journals is supplied at the beginning of the year. And I will show you how. So first I want to show you an example of each of these metadata standards. So XML, mark records, and kbar list. So this is an example of an XML file for one of our titles. So at the press, the XML metadata is produced automatically within our system, and we have a dedicated team who can generate this kind of metadata, and I ask them to provide, the ones they need every month, and then I upload it in the various providers' FTP folders. XML, as we know, is a kind of standard that is much more fluid than others, for example, Mark, because it's very much more straightforward. And that's why it was invented, really, to have a language that was read better by the creators and by the machines. And yeah, we supply the current standard, and so the ebook XML records, they are as I was saying, sent every month, when instead the journals just at the beginning of the year by another team, not by me. This is instead an example of a kbar list. For the kbar list, we follow the NISO recommendations of their phase 2. We supply kbar list for both ebooks collections and e-journals. This is an example of a ebook kbar list. As you can see, it has all the various elements, so titles, ISBNs, URLs, name of authors, and then you can see them, but there's also publishers and CS titles and so on. And the same structure will be available for journals. kbar list for ebooks are automated, updated automatically within our system. So when a new title is published within our platform, Cambridge Core, which is every day really, the data related to that ebook will appear in the kbar list. Kbar list is very important to us because you see, in the library services providers databases, there will be, all of the collections that are related to Cambridge University Press content. And those collections are populated using the kbar list for both ebooks and e-journals. As I was saying, the journal ones are created once a year, so they're static, when instead the other ones, they are updated monthly accordingly to what is published. So we want to make sure of two things. Well, first, that everything is working on the background, so that these are updated correctly and so on. So we make sure of that. And if someone, tells us through, 3 tickets through the providers that there is something wrong, we can take immediate action. But also we make sure that the names that we give to this kbar list within our databases are the same that the providers are using in their databases, so there is no confusion. If anyone has any confusion about what collection they should select in the library services providers databases, they could contact us, and we could help them identify which ones they should select. So the third format is obviously the mark records. So at Cambridge University Press, our system creates automatically, using data from various parts of it, automated records. And you can see an example here on the left. Our automated records are, good enough MARC records. They have, these essential elements to ensure discoverability: ISBNs, titles, names, abstracts. But it doesn't have, all the elements to ensure full discoverability. In our case here, for example, there is no DUI number, there is no subject headings, and there are no authorized forms of names and series titles. So my job every month is to enhance all those records to full level, add all the elements they need to ensure that the discoverability for those resources is the best possible. So I do this in two ways. So as I was mentioning before, we have the special agreement in place with the Library of Congress. So I can, using various cataloging tools, get the data from them and merge it with our records. Obviously, that's not the end of it, because the data produced by the Library of Congress is still pre-publication data. So as you know, things can change between the publication and pre-publication, and important changes too, like titles could change, subtitles could be or could not be there, and the orders of the authors in the statement or editors in the statement of responsibility can also change. So and the date of publication too. So it's not just a matter of merging and that's it. No, I still have to open each ebook and check that the information is correct. Also, obviously, the Library of Congress catalogers are the best catalogers in the world, at least in my opinion. But there could be tiny little mistakes here and there within the records. We are all humans after all, so that's part of it. For those records that don't have Library of Congress records, I catalog them myself, again to full level. So, and I do this so that all the MARC records that we produce for both ebooks and journals, they will all have Library of Congress and DUI classification numbers, Library of Congress subject headings, Library of Congress authorized forms of names, and for those that require them, language and geographical codes, Library of Congress authorized forms of series titles, corporate or conference entries, and title variants. Again, all the elements necessary to full discoverability. And I do this using various tools. I use, for example, Classification Web, which is a database provided on subscription by the Library of Congress, where it's possible to search within the Library of Congress classification system numbers and check numbers and correlations to DUI numbers, to subject headings, of course, and also National Library of Medicine numbers and subject headings. And also I use amazing cataloging tools, which are Bibliophile, which is provided again on subscription by the Library Corporation, and I'm sure you have heard of it, MarcEdit, which is free and has been developed and currently updated by Terry Rees. MarcEdit is one of the best out here. So I wanted to go in a bit of more depth in these tools and show them to you a little bit. So we start with the Bibliophile. So this is Bibliophile. You can do a lot of things with it. So when we open a file, you can see the structure is very, very nice, I think, because it's a very useful tool also for non-experienced catalogers, because already in the structure it gives you a lot of information here on the left. You can see the name of each field. And also, if you press, if you have any doubts about any of the fields, for example, if you're not sure in the title field, if you want how to add in the punctuation or which subfields to use for example, the subtitle, or if it's a volume 1, part 2, or something like that, you can simply press F1, and it's going to open this amazing guide that is going to give you all the information that you need to properly use the subfields and the punctuation. And the same, as you can see here on this box on the left, is available for any kinds of fields. Bibliophile is up to date with RDA, so all the instruction related to RDA fields, for example, 264, or in the 300 fields like 336, 337, and 338 is all available. And the same will happen if you, for example, you want to, your book is a translation and you want to add the codes for all the languages involved. Again, you press F1 and you will find a list with all the languages that you can think of. And also the same for geographical codes. And this is amazing because obviously we can't obviously remember all the codes of all the countries or the languages that that we need as catalogers. So to have this kind of tool is great. Also, this cataloger's reference shelf is also available online. So you don't need to, subscribe to Bibliophile to have access to it. You can also go online here and have access to all the guides that I mentioned and many others. I really can't recommend Bibliophile more. I always used it since I started working, in the UK, and yeah, it's an amazing tool. There are other things to do like searching within databases, by ISBN titles or CLC numbers, etc., by languages, etc. So you can do really a lot with it. Particularly if you work on on each record one by one, which is what I do at the beginning when I start working on the various batches, because we usually between our titles and the partners publishers titles, because we also have a series of partners publishers titles that we publish. We publish about 250 records per month. So my job first is to check the information of each record. And so I have to work on each record individually, and I use Bibliophile. And then once I complete the work, I do a lot of other things with MarcEdit, which I'm going to show you right now. I can discard this and close this. Okay. So this is MarcEdit. Again, it's an amazing tool. There are hundreds of things you can do with it. I'm going to show you a few. First, the mark validator. This is great because it incorporates many mark related rules. So if there is some kind of error, I don't know, like if you have modified the 008 field, so there is one space, there are like, I don't know, there should be 40 characters, but if you have modified and by mistake you have deleted a couple, this is going to show you that kind of mistake. You just have to select the file and click on OK, and it's going to show you if there are any mistakes. In this case, there weren't, but it will show you all of them here. And so let's say so you have a batch of records and you want to search for print records of those records in the Library of Congress catalog. So that's how you do it through MarcEdit. So going to tools and export delimited records. So we'll extract the print ISBNs from our file. So we have like 67 records, so I can write 67 print next, and then we want them from the print ISBN field that in ebook record is 020Z, and then export. And then we have to clean it up a bit because we can't just use it like this. We delete that and that. And also we need only the first column. So we will use Excel. There you go. To separate the data. And then once we have separated, we have the first column, then you can pass it back and save it. And then using again MarcEdit, we'll go to this function, Z39.50. Through this function, it's possible to search within various databases It's possible to add databases. There is a huge list of databases. Not all will work. Some will need passwords, of course, but if your institution is there, or you are, you know others where you can access, is a great tool. So we're searching the Library of Congress records. We can search one single record or by batch. What we want to do is by batch, of course. So we select our notepad file. We write the name of the destination file, which could be 67 Library of Congress. We leave ISBN as SSN option, and obviously we have selected Library of Congress as database. And then we click on the green arrow. Obviously, this is going to take a couple of minutes because it's researching through the system. What you should be aware of is a couple of things when you search in a database using this process. First, the system is going to find all the databases, all the records that contain the ISBNs you're looking for. And fortunately, it's not going to search within only let's say the new records that have 13-digit ISBNs. It's going also to search within the ones with 10-digit ISBNs, and it's going to find them. And that's useful because if you are working on a backlog of all the titles, it's going to find them, and that's great. The only thing about that is that you should be aware of that not all the databases have been upgraded with the RDA format, so they could have a mix of records within them. So you should be aware that when you're working with old records, you have to be prepared to upgrade them with the new cataloging format, RDA. And be aware that also things can be changed in terms of subject headings and Library of Congress numbers and UE numbers. So this process is useful because it enables you to have a lot of data, but also you have to learn how to clean up the data to make it useful for what you have to do. Yeah, almost there. Oh, there we are. So these are the results. We searched 67 records. It has retrieved 74 and not retrieved 25. That can be a bit confusing. So what's going on here? Well, first, as I was saying, he found all the records that contain the ISBNs we were looking for. So in this case, he found both ebooks and print records. So that's why the number is higher here. And that's why he's not found those ones, because he has not found the ones that they weren't there. So first, it's useful to copy this and save it for future use. Okay. And then we can close this and we can analyze the file that we just downloaded. So we use, again, bibliofile. This is our file. So these are the records that have been downloaded from the Library of Congress. As I was mentioning before, there will be, duplicates, or at least print and ebook versions. I prefer to use the print version, but for one reason only, because I prefer to supply the libraries that will get our records with full catering after the 050 field. I know that, and they do correctly, of course, that ebook records don't need the catering, but I like to provide them because I don't know if libraries are going to need that. Maybe are going to use the ebook records to create print records. So I always am of the belief that the more correct, of course, data you produce is better. Yeah. So what I will do with the mark edit is to select from that Library of Congress file only the records with a full 050 field, so all the ones that have 050B. If I click on does not match, it will select the ones that don't have, and if I invert selection, it will select the ones that have, so the ones that I need. So I do export selected, and I say no, because I need just that file. And I write ones with the 050B, and yes. So now that I have those, I can merge them. I can merge them with our file. There is this function here. So, well, first I have to do a couple of things. I'm going to do very quickly because I'm concerned of the time. So first, from the Library of Congress records, I will have to save it in the MRK format, because that's the only one can be used when you merge records. And then from the file that I want to merge it with, okay, it's this one, I have, using the function to create macros, create a macro that delete all the fields that I want to get from the Library of Congress records. Sorry, it's the other macro. Yes, so it has deleted 245 field, etc. It has changed the order of ISBNs, so because that's what the system is going to use to merge the records, or at least what I will select, the main ISBN. Then I save it. And then merge records. Sorry, I had to save that one in the MRK format too. So merge. So the first file is the one that we want to add information in, and the merge file is the one where we want to get the information from. And then obviously the saves file will be named something like this. And then the record identifier is what the system is going to look at to see if two records can be merged together because they match. So as I was saying, the 020A. And then here I can select or type any kind of fields that I want to take from the other file. Just to say a couple. So we have removed the field title, and we wanted the 050 and 082 and 650, 600. They don't have to be in order. You can add them. You can type how is more convenient to you, but they will appear in order on the records. Obviously, that's not all of them. They are like 40 the ones I take, because again, I want to create full records, but yeah, just to give you an example. And then next, and then close. And then when we look up our file, yeah, we can see that definitely data has been added to it. Yeah, like in this record, as you can see, we have taken the number, the Library of Congress number, the Dewey number, the title, and the subject headings, and so on. So we have our, the second step or work is done here. And now what I will have to do is to check this record on, the ebook on our platform, Cambridge Core, and check that all the information is correct. Title, date of publication, and name of the series, etc., etc. So as I was saying before, I do this kind of work for all the ebooks that we publish on our platform. And so we publish content every month, well, every day, really, for all of our collections, histories, Shakespeare, Shakespeare survey. Actually, Shakespeare survey is once a year. And then all the ones belonging to, not to collections, but, you know. Also, we publish textbooks, and again, this get mark records, elements, which is one of our special collections because it's sort of a hybrid between an ebook and a journal. We publish, as I mentioned, the publishers partners titles on our platform, including Facet. So for you who are CLIP members, you are already familiar with it. And again, we provide mark records for their titles. And also we provide mark records and all those kinds of metadata for our open access titles and journals. In particular, there is an important news among our open access project, the Flip It Open initiative. With this initiative, we started to sort of republish titles in an open access format. And this reflected in the metadata that we send to libraries about those titles. For example, these are the records for two or one of our latest flip opened titles. So the data, they have, first of all, a new ISBN, so there is no confusion with the previous one. Also, they will all have a 500 field, so a note field explaining what happened. It has been reissued as an open access, and in which year, and when it was originally published, and also the previous ebook ISBN. And there is no confusion with it because, for example, this is the original, well, the previous version of this work. If anyone who had already, had access to this title were to go on its page, they will see this note here. This product has been replaced with an open access version and is available under another ISBN. And so they will be, linked to that version already, so that they know that there is an open access version of it. And obviously, this change will also be reflected in 008 containing the date of publication, etc. Again, this is, to underline the fact that we really advocate for open access resources, and we want to reflect that on our metadata so that there is no confusion and everyone is aware of what they are having access to, really. Yeah, so this, this is at least for me the end of what I wanted to talk with you today. I hope that you found it useful, and that you have seen some of the features of those tools that I've been talking about. And yeah, now I look forward to hear from you. If you have any questions about anything, I'm very happy to answer. Thank you. I think I can. Paste. Yeah, I pause my sharing. Stop. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Concette. That was very, very interesting. Just.